what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It's the 24th of November. It's 2018, and it's still freezing here in the Northeast because, global warming. At any rate, I was watching RTR Truth Media yesterday, and he had this great video that he found on True News up on his channel. So I got a hold of him and said, Tom, do you mind if I run this? And he said, absolutely not. Have at it. So here it is. But first, these bad boys are only available for 2 more days. Like I said, a subscriber made this design right here. Look up, they are poisoning us, hashtag chemtrails, and then RFB is on the back. 2 more days.
You should be shocked at what we're going to tell you is being done today against the people who are criticizing Israel. The BDS movement, these aren't terrorists. They're not seeking the destruction of Israel. They're not seeking the elimination of the Jewish people. They don't want gas chambers. They don't want a Holocaust. They just want the Israelis to tear down that horrible wall that they've put through Palestinian homes, right through the backyards of people, including a lot of Palestinian Christians. They want that wall torn down. They want Palestinians living in Israel to have the same rights as Jews.
Which they don't today.
They don't. And so this is one of the proposals, that the Palestinians get equal rights, and they want the right of the Palestinian refugees to come back.
Right of return.
Right of return. And so this is one of the proposals, that the Palestinians get equal rights, and they want the right of the Palestinian refugees to come back.
Right of return.
Right of return. That makes them enemies of the state of Israel. And now the Israeli lobby, which is so powerful in America, has persuaded half of the states of America to either pass laws or get the governors to sign executive orders that punishes American citizens for expressing their support for the Palestinian people.
Well, in its base level, by doing that, they're legislating a political opinion upon the people in the states.
That's un-American.
It's un-American. I mean, what would we say if someone had put it into a law that you're forced to accept that abortion is something that is morally right? We, as Christians, would be screaming from the tops. But what they've done here, Rick, reading through the 24 states that are listed on the Jewish Virtual Library, they have a complete list of every state that's signed an anti-BDS law. Rick, they've left the definition of what it means to be included on as a BDS activist, they've left it very vague. And what they've done is they've expanded past if you're boycotting, divesting, or involved in sanctioning. They've expanded to say that if you're in any of these movements, you are automatically engaged in anti-Semitic behavior, and you're akin to destroying or challenging the legitimacy of the Israeli state.
Exactly. So they smear people. They call them bigots, anti-Semitic, racist, whatever. But the Palestinian people are Semitic people.
Right.
I mean, that it's so bizarre. You're calling the Palestinian people anti-Semitic, and yet they are Semitic people.
Yes.
Okay. This is about human rights and human dignity, and I know, I am absolutely positive that the overwhelming majority of the people watching us right now have no idea about the BDS movement. You may have heard of it, but you haven't been paying attention to it. But what the other thing you've not paid attention to is how the Israelis have mobilized the Christian Zionists in America to get laws passed in half of the states, or executive orders like the governor of Kentucky did just days ago. And this is all being led by John Hagee's Christians United for Israel, all right, and the other Israeli pressure groups in America. And so they're setting the precedent now to outlaw freedom of thought, freedom of speech, making certain thoughts illegal, to be criminalized. Now you're going to be shocked at some of the things that you're going to hear, and you should be shocked, even if you are a hardcore supporter of Israel.
Yes.
You should be shocked at what we're going to tell you is being done today against the people who are criticizing Israel. because it's un-American. And we're allowing these Israelis to come into America and change our laws, change our way of that we govern ourselves. Just like this Israeli cabinet official today who said, the Israeli government was immediately going into action to find out if Airbnb violated any American laws.
What difference does it make to them whether they violate any American laws?
Because they control America. Okay.
What started off our discussion on this whole thing today was Governor-elect DeSantis here in Florida. Of course, they finally declared the election won here and everything. But one of the very first statements he comes out with as governor-elect isn't let's do more to improve the infrastructure here in Florida. It's not, let's improve the coastline. Let's get rid of red tide. Not any of these things that are on the minds of Floridians. No, Governor-elect DeSantis makes a pledge to strengthen Florida's anti-BDS law. He comes out to make this statement today. Was it today?
No, actually, and you're dead on. It was his first act as governor-elect, because this actually was November 8th. He sat down with it's a Hebrew-based. This is published in Hebrew daily in Israel. It's because the Israel Hayom newspaper. And he said, as governor, I'm in charge of the anti-BDS list, referring to a
Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
You got to say this very clear. Okay, it's up on the screen. I'm sorry.
Right there.
Go ahead and read it slowly. So
as governor, this again is when he's governor-elect, as governor, I'm in charge of the anti-BDS list. So when there are boycotts of Israel, I can unilaterally put these companies on Florida's list so that they can't do business with the state of Florida. And I'll be very aggressive in doing that. And I think that will help combat BDS. My first foreign trip as governor is going to be to Israel. I want to obviously develop additional economic relations, want to make sure we continue to have direct flights from South Florida to Ben Gurion Airport. I want to make sure when we're doing trade with Israel, I don't draw any distinctions like the State Department would between an Israeli Jewish community in Tel Aviv or Jewish communities in the Golan Heights or Judea and Samaria.
Yes.
And I view it all as basically the same.
So we've noticed in the past year, the Zionists have changed the language. It's no longer West Bank and Gaza.
Give it Bible names.
Yeah, Judea and Samaria.
Oh, we got to get the Bible lands back.
That's right, because you'll get the Christian Zionists all worked up about that, and they'll get excited about it. But he said, Governor-elect DeSantis said, I'm in charge of the list.
Yes.
The list of what?
So one of the actions that was put into law by Governor Scott is the state of Florida started building a list of companies they considered to be in conjunction with the BDS movement. And what they said is public funds and in addition to that, contracts from the state of Florida would no longer be given to said companies on the list.
So if you are on record in favor of the Palestinian people, you get on a list, and the governor has the list.
Yes.
And he's going to aggressively enforce the law against the people on the list. What does this sound like? This sounds like Nazi Germany.
It does.
Crystal. I mean, they're putting people on a list without really
based on their thoughts.
Based on their thought. It's so vague. And one of the things that right now is protection. If you have any assets above $1 million, they generally stay away from you. That's built in the Florida law. That's one of the things Governor-elect DeSantis is going after now. It could be someone who literally donated $10 to a quote, BDS movement or BDS figure. They will now be subject to this.
When are they going to seize assets?
I think that's the next step.
Freeze them out. Freeze them out so they can't move the assets at all. One of the things that money represents our voice, represents our time, our efforts. It represents a part of who we are. We should be able to spend money wherever we really please, or not spend money wherever we please as well. You made the comments about boycotts and everything. I have some mixed feelings about boycotts and sanctions and stuff like that. But, for the government to enter into that arena and determine the free speech aspect of that's a whole different ballgame there. I don't want the government to tell me I can't boycott Target because they allow men in dresses in women's restrooms. I don't want the government telling me to do that. Why would I want the government to tell me whether or not I can do business with people in Palestine?
Because it's about Israel.
Yes.
These are not American values. These are Jewish values.
Right.
Jewish values rule America now.
One of the hypocrisies built into every one of these laws is that it's a boycott in itself. These states are saying we're going to boycott the services and industries and companies of individuals who hold a certain perspective, a certain thought. It's a boycott from the state level on the people.
But it is in defense of the state of Israel.
Yes.
Now, could it get to a point where you couldn't receive aid from the government because you have pro-Palestinian views? I mean,
that sounds far-fetched, but it actually happened last year in the state of Texas, because the state of Texas passed a anti-BDS law. Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, conservative, Christian, good man, very good man. He signed this into law, and it got applied during the hurricane. After the hurricane Harvey.
Great devastation in Texas.
Which was Houston, right?
Yes.
And so the effects of this law first appeared as people in, was the town of Dickinson? I think it was Dickinson, Texas. When they applied for federal aid, state and federal aid, they had to sign a legal document that promised that they would not support a boycott of Israel.
Now, these are homeowners that we're talking about.
Who were flooded out. There it is right there. That's the actual document.
By executing this agreement below, the applicant verifies that the applicant does not boycott Israel and will not boycott Israel during the term of this agreement. These are homeowners here. Now, there was already a law on the books prior to this that businesses cannot participate in grant or aid programs from the state of Texas, but this was being applied to homeowners.